said, George is from Enwealth. He's the general manager of Enwealth Financial Services. George, I wanted you just to wrap up the day. We had a very intense discussion on reforms, universal systems as the last one. How would you sum today's session, and what do you think Africa should do when it comes to pensions or retirement?
Thank you very much, Steve. Indeed, for me, it was a privilege to have attended this annual Pensions and Retirement Summit here in Naivasha, Kenya, and it was indeed a privilege. The conversations that were held in this space were very timely, in my view, and they touch on the real pain points of Africa. If there is a continent that needs inclusive growth, it's Africa. If there's a continent that needs development, it's Africa. If there's a continent that needs social impact, it's Africa. The fact that we've all trailed our eyesight on the fact that pension investment is actually the key to this, I think it's ideal. My desire would be, how do we package these conversations to a point whereby they can find their route into policy to be able to inform decision-making across our continent. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Sandeep. Sandeep, as we stated earlier, is the CEO of Zamara, Kenya. Sandeep, you've mentioned something that caught my eye, and that was the product that we have in the market in terms of pensions not resonating with the populace or the audience in Africa. Do we need to redesign the systems? Do we need to change policy? Do we need to change regulatory framework? What can you advise the African audience?
So Stephen, I would say that, look, there's definitely a need to rethink our pension systems across Africa, right? Because for the reason I said that, I feel that a lot of Kenyans, Africans are disconnected with their retirement saving, right? And if you talk to lots of people, yes, they feel saving for their retirement is important, but it's probably not their most important priority. The question we must ask is that, is there a way that we can widen our pension system to accommodate other needs and thereby make our pension systems resonate better with our people? And I'd really want to say that we've had some excellent discussions today, Stephen. I mean, we've talked about issues that are cross-cutting, and it was good to see that most of the countries in Africa, from South Africa to Kenya to Ghana, we have very similar challenges. And I believe therein lie the opportunities for us to collaborate, engage, share ideas, learn from each other. And events like this really help to bring us together. And as George said earlier, our challenge now is to say, how do we take some of these things, put them together, and take it to policymakers and other stakeholders so that we can start getting the results. But overall, I feel we've had an excellent start to the summit. I'm really looking forward to the second day.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Nicola. Nicola is from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and she's a chief risk officer as well as the chairman of the pension fund for Johannesburg Stock Exchange. You've touched quite a few points, and I know even with the audience, you've really responded to them. I wanted to find out, Nicola, what you think could be the way forward in Africa in terms of pension systems, in terms of issues of regulation, in terms of investments, in terms of even the products themselves. What would be your closing remarks on that?
So this has been a really great opportunity. Thanks so much. I think the first day of the annual Pensions and Retirement Summit for this year, for the African continent, has gone off with a blast. I think the key thing for me, the key takeaway, is pensions have to be practical. It needs to be real for our people. It needs to serve our people's needs. And I think we need to move away from potentially the structures being used in the West or in other parts of the world and look specifically at what will work for the continent. And practically looking at, we spoke about the wider savings priorities, looking at housing, schooling, and healthcare solutions, and how do we structure those and connect those with our pension solutions. So instead of talking about your retirement or your pension, we talk about what does your future lifestyle look like? How do we make sure that you have a prosperous future? And so for me, you need to structure those things in a combined package. And I think it's just been, to echo what my colleagues have said as well, is to put all of those together and engage with our policymakers. We can co-create, learning from each other across the continent. We've all got beautiful stories that we can contribute. And I've learned a lot today. So it's been really wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome. I'll just shoot back to you. Nicola, who do you think then should drive the reform agenda? Would it come from the industry? Would it come from the government? Would it come from civil society? Who should drive this agenda?
So I'm a big proponent of PPPs, so public-private partnerships. I feel it really has to be a combination of both. And so if I look at how I engage with the Government Employee Pension Fund in South Africa, and with my colleagues in the private sector, for me, having more of these forums where we can collaborate and have conversations together, as an example, where we talk about our priorities of impact investing and say, what are we going to focus on? For me, this links into the broader solution for the pension fund industry. We can redirect our impact investing specifically to housing solutions, healthcare solutions, etc., that will talk to the structural solutions that are required to help all of us have prosperous futures in our retirement.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Sandeep again. Sandeep, I know I will preempt maybe what you will be focusing on tomorrow, and that's the issue of even moving into alternative investments. That will also have an element of impact. We have seen a lot of comments regarding how infrastructure can have also impact at the same time bringing in returns. There is a fear of risks involved in investing in alternatives. What would you be your advice or comment to pension funds that are trying to move into alternatives, trying to go into these new asset classes, especially in Africa, where even asset classes that are very widely popular elsewhere, like private equity, we still seen a very low uptake. What would be your comments on that?
Yeah, Stephen, I'll be speaking about this at length tomorrow in my presentation. But look, firstly, I think it's important to say that infrastructure is a very critical driver for progress in sub-Saharan Africa. It's an enabler for trade, private enterprise, and indeed the achievement of the social development goals. And studies suggest that where there is infrastructure development, you do get a knock-on effect and on the economy and benefit to the wider population. Now, and the same goes with private equity. I mean, if you look at pension fund investments in many parts of Africa, they're largely concentrated on the traditional asset classes, fixed income and equities, which are not really representative of the real African economy, right? So there has been a lot of work that has been done in the last few years on introducing these asset classes as investable asset classes for pension funds. There are interesting and good opportunities there. There's a lot of merit in pension funds doing some of these things collectively, and I'll be talking about that at length tomorrow. But overall, look, I feel that the space is ripe for diversifying our investments into other areas so that we can benefit the members of our pension funds by giving them stable, more long-term returns, but at the same time helping to build our countries and our continent.
Thank you very much. I come back to you, George. You mentioned a couple of issues, or you made statements regarding millennials. As Africa, I know there's a talk of changing the future of work. People are talking of people being able to do different jobs at the same time, maybe working longer. How will we be able to structure these pension systems to appeal to these millennials and the new structures of work, where somebody wants to work in Kenya, work in Botswana, work in Nigeria, get a job in UK and come back. How do we cover these people, especially the so-called millennials?
Thank you very much, Steve. Indeed, we normally say today is a borrowed future from that age group. And whatever we do today needs to, at the end of it all, leave a better thing for them to then be able to inherit. The language of millennials is different. And from my observation, many of the things that we do today do not resonate with their language. How we package, for example, retirement savings, how we even do our policies and the like, there is a divergent view in terms of what we think they need and what they actually need. So at the end of the day, the reality of holding different jobs in different jurisdictions is already here with us. And it starts from the policies that we even built, where we even have human resource manuals that forbid you from holding a different job while you still answer to this. All those things are calling for us now to relook at them and say, have they been overtaken by age and events? Because where we are headed, there's that flexibility that needs to be there. Pension savings or retirement savings must be packaged to be able to align to those specific needs and address the pain points for millennials.
Okay. I will just want you to close with one comment, and this would be what you think has been the impact of the COVID pandemic to the pensions industry. And I want the three of you to respond to that. You could start, George.
Oh, thank you. Well, as I earlier said during during my talk, was that the pandemic indeed was unanticipated. Even though we had heard it was somewhere in another continent coming, but we never saw it would arrive that soon. What it has done is that it has exposed to the granular levels some of the weaknesses that we have even in our systems. The retirement industry anchors on three main wheels: the wheel of how it is funded, how it is invested, and how the benefits are paid out. Those are the three main anchor policies within a retirement arrangement. If you asked me, none of this has been spared by COVID. What we saw was that the funding was impacted, people lost jobs, meaning no more contributions coming into the schemes, employers struggling, meaning they cannot remit contributions as promised to their employees, contracts being revised downwards. On the other hand, investments also impacted, and all those kind of things, and including benefit payouts, where someone had projected to continue saving for the next 5 or so years. Loss of jobs means that they now need the money today. And with the poor savings culture that we have in our continent, it means the fallback position was actually the pension savings. So indeed, it has been drastic, and it has touched on each of these pain points, and it has left a scar that we really need not ignore. Learn from it and move forward and do things better for the future.
Thank you very much.
Stephen, I would say that the COVID-19 crisis is actually a wake-up call to all of us. It has really exposed to me the deep cracks in the social fabrics of our countries. All individuals, businesses have been impacted, but I believe that the impact this has had on people who are outside the formal system, who are the majority of us in Africa, the impact on them has been disproportionately larger. And this raises important questions about the future plight of a lot of our people and the type of countries and nations we want to build. Imagine within a few days of the crisis, millions of people in Africa struggle to put food on their table and take care of their families. Why is it each time there's a crisis, there's a flood, or there's a natural disaster, we have these issues? The real reason is most people have near zero savings. And with the mushrooming of all these mobile lending platforms we see across Africa, people are also heavily indebted. And I feel that this COVID-19 is a wake-up call to all of us. It demonstrates, it shows us the crisis that we will face in the next few years if we don't do something about this. But the beauty is that in Africa, we have these solutions. I think as a continent, we've made a quantum leap in terms of technology, mobile payments, use of mobile phones, and I feel that if we can create those frictionless systems, cost-effective systems, we can actually get people to start saving or thinking about their future. And I feel that COVID-19 is actually going to make people realize the importance of doing that. So I feel that, you know, all of us are at a very defining moment in our country's histories and our continent's histories. And I think we can do the right things now collaboratively. And if you ask me why should we do it, it's about safeguarding the future of our societies. If we get it right, we will all benefit. If we don't, we will all suffer. Because we're all in this together, right? I think our success, you know, everyone else's success should be our success. And we should look at wider society as we do this. So I see this as a turning point, and I hope that a lot of people will start thinking differently.
Thank you very much. Nicola?
Thank you. I think just in closing, I think my colleagues have said everything, but for me, it really has put the spotlight on the 90% economy, because we do have that as a reality on the African continent, where we've got the formal structures, which essentially covers 10%, and then you've got 90% that falls outside of that. And so for me, it's saying that we've got deep-seated structural inequalities, and unfortunately, COVID has magnified and even widened those gaps. So how do we now leverage that? How do we now leverage technology to leapfrog beyond and use our African innovative way to design solutions that are fit for purpose for us and for our environment? We don't have to leverage what's been used globally because it won't necessarily fit our social structure. So for me, it's about learning from each other and using the very innovative ways that's been designed in Kenya and Rwanda, other countries that have been mentioned today. And for me, then leverage that and be able to create an environment that's more sustainable.
Thank you very much. And with that remark, I think I will let you go. It's been a long day. I really appreciate your time. We will continue tomorrow. I'm looking forward to you both presenting tomorrow. George will still be with us here. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.